What a beautiful day, a summer's day here at Watkins Glen International. Next up, Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. It's round 6 of the 2024 season. Race 2 on the weekend here, and the fans are going to see a good one, that is for sure. And this racetrack, one that it's on your bucket list if you own Nomex and a helmet. It's a racetrack that has such a storied past, from racing on the streets in the village of Watkins Glen to the permanent facility here. 3.4 miles, 11 turns, a lot of elevation change here. The back straight into the inner loop, the outer loop, the chute, the boot, the toe of the boot, the heel of the boot, all great names, all great corners. Diving down into turn 1, a downhill braking zone, you can get a pass done there and hopefully stay in front all the way to the inner loop or the bus stop, whatever you'd like to call it. That's changed at the entry a little bit there, and then about a 150-foot drop from the inner loop down to the toe of the boot. Good passing opportunity available in turn 8. Heavy braking there. Back onto the short course, final 2 corners, and you have completed a lap at Watkins Glen. Brian Till with you, along with Jeremy Shaw. We'll have all the action for you, and you can always expect plenty of action in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. We certainly saw it in race number 1 yesterday. Field streaming out of pit lane right now, and we'll take you back to race number 1. The green flag waves. Field heads down into turn 1, and a great jump by the pole sitter, the number 1 from IMSA, or from Wayne Taylor Racing, I should say. Good run down into turn 1. Gianno Torino outside and aboard the 88. It didn't take long for the action to start. Patrick Liddy, a little aggressive, lost a position or 2 at the start, tries to make him back up, gets into the 77 of Jake Walker and Scott Huffaker and Walker with problems. Then the restart, Gianno Torino in that bright 88, trying to charge to the front, can't quite get past the number 1 of Danny Vermael. And then a problem for the number 4, Kiko Porter from IMSA Motorsports, championship leader, with a problem, and we'd see more problems for that team throughout the day. And speaking of problems, Tom Capizzi finds the wall at the exit of turn 9. That's going to damage his number 46 Lamborghini. And then a problem for David Cardenas. That brings out the full course caution. I said a bad day for IMSA. Well, the 7 part of the IMSA Motorsport stable as well. Checkered flag falls under full course caution. But look at these 3 cars side by side. There was a penalty on the number 14 for a short pit stop, and the other drivers trying to make their way up to take advantage of that and be close enough to improve their position. Race control did not look smiling on any of that, Jeremy Shaw. 5 grid spot penalty for each of the cars, the 21, the 66, and the 14. You've got to stay in single file order, and you can't play games behind the safety car.
Yeah, there was some changing of positions there. Initially, there was a provisional result put out that had the number 14 car back in the lead, winning that class, but that was rescinded again overnight, and instead of being the other 3 cars being penalised, that moved ahead because of the time differential caused by the short pit stop for number 14, they'd be given a 5 grid stop penalty instead. So I'm still scratching my head. I'm a little bit confused because it's been a busy day with all else that's going on here, but it was an exciting race. Shame it finished under yellow, but there was some really good racing yesterday.
Oh, it's an awesome race coming to the close there before we went to that full course caution, like you said. Just a great drive by Ryan Norman aboard the number 1 and the 88. Just spectacular battles, and it was one of those deals where you didn't know who was going to make it, and full course caution, I think, allowed Ryan Norman to finally catch his breath when we ended under full course caution. So different lineup today, 2 qualifyings for the 2 different races. And race number 2 today, the clock will start when they go across the start line. Officials here just making sure that these teams have a chance to get these hand-cooked tires up to temperature and pressure before we go green here. So a little schmozzle there coming into turn 11, Jeremy.
Yeah, you generally don't find much grip on the grass there, but no harm, no foul. He's able to continue. I think that was, I'm not sure who that was actually. It might have been Bryson Morris in the number 30 car, I'm not sure, but there were problems. You talked about problems yesterday for the IMSA Motorsports team. The championship leaders, Nico Gimin and Kiko Porto, they had an electrical problem which put them to the back of the field. Also, that problem at the end, the crash for number 7, Alex Lima, it was driving the car at that stage. He was actually taken to the hospital last night, but happy to say he's been released from the hospital this morning. He's feeling sore, got a bit of a headache last night, but he's on his way back home to Miami, so that's good news. The bad news, of course, that car, number 7 car, will not be seen today. That was the car that was qualified and raced so well in the first half by young Andrew Cadenas from Colombia, so he will not be starting today's race. So we have 36 cars on the grid. We haven't got time to go down through the whole lot, so let's just have a look at the pole sitters in each of the classes. We have 4 categories of driver here. We've got pros, pro-ams, AMs, and then LB Cup for the least experienced drivers. Total of 36 cars. In LB Cup, Nick Grote, who scored his first class win yesterday, he today will start from the pole for the second time this season. That's car number 57 for One Motorsports out of Nevada. He will start in the 23rd position. Best of the AM contenders, a really good run yesterday by Anthony Bullock, who's also for One Motorsports. He will start 10th overall in car number 12, the best of the AM contenders. Best of Pro-Am qualifier was Jerome Bleckermolen for Flying Lizard Motorsports in car number 54. He was a point leader in Pro-Am after the reshuffling of points yesterday. So he will start 4th in car number 54, but on the pole position for the first time in his young Lamborghini Super Trofeo career, 6-time former Trans Am champion, race winner in just about whatever you name it, he's done it and done well at it. Ernie Francis will start from the pole in car number 88 for TR3 Racing.
Yeah, Ernie Francis put in a heck of a drive, he and Ryan Norman yesterday in the closing stages of this race. 4 different classes in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, all driving the exact same Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 model. The classes Pro, you'll see an orange chiclet in the windscreen up on the right side. That will denote the Pro category. In the Pro-Am category, that little triangle or chiclet is yellow. Then in AM, it's green, and in LB Cup, it is blue. That's the only difference in these cars is the drivers and the experience level that they have. Lights out on the Lamborghini Super Trofeo safety car as they lead through turn 10, and the field getting ready to go. Ernie Francis on the pole, the bright orange number 88, ready to go alongside Nico Gimin. They had that problem yesterday. He and his teammate lead the championship. Kiko Porter, they need to get back on the horse, get back to the top step, and they'll see if they can do it today. Those mechanical gremlins hopefully have been taken care of. Field lining up, checking up as they come to green. Oh, and there's a jump out to the outside. Remember, you must stay in column formation until crossing the line. So we'll see if some penalties aren't going to get handed out here with this start. Down into turn 1, Ernie Francis with the lead. Now the field getting sorted out as they head up through the climbing S's.
Yeah, and Kiko Porto, Nico Gimin starts today in the IMSA Motorsports car number 4. He maintains second position ahead of the defending champion car. That's number 1 with Ryan Norman at the helm. Ryan Norman, of course, won yesterday. That was his and Danny Formal's first win of the season.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that it was the first win of the season. When you look at it, there were only 3 drivers who had race wins last year, and both Danny Formal and his co-driver Ryan Norman were 2 of those 3, and yet they were winless on the season. So they finally have gotten that taken care of, got that monkey off their back, and that will help close down the championship a little bit. Meanwhile, Ernie Francis in a half lap, Jeremy, has checked out in a problem, a big crash. This is going to bring out a full course caution. It is the number 48, and that, I believe, is in the laces of the boot, Michael Staub.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Michael. He came into this weekend as a points leader in LB Cup. He won both races in that category, as Ophir Levy has some damage as well to his number 13 car. So maybe some contact between those two, both running in LB Cup. Michael Staub I say, double winner at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca last time out, but he lost the championship lead yesterday to Nick Grote, but quite a bit of damage, unfortunately, to that number 48 car for Precision Performance Motorsport. Oops. Oh, ouch. That's a big accident.
That was odd. Car slowing down, coming into the corner, and you see the left front of the 13 gets into the right rear of the 48, so Levy looks like perhaps just misjudged the speed differential coming into that corner.
I'm not so sure it wasn't the 48 car that was going a lot faster than the number 13, Brian, to be honest. That was a really kind of strange looking incident between those two, because they seem to be going completely different velocities when they should have been slowing down for that corner.
So
see that one again.
Safety workers there to check on Stubb and make sure that he's okay. Let's take another look, Jeremy. It's just it unfolds so quickly. We don't have a long shot of it.
Yeah, look, number 48 car seems to me to be going a lot faster down into that corner. Maybe he had some sort of problem with the brakes. This again, you can see the relative speed of the cars coming into the picture. Yeah, number 48 car definitely makes contact with the number 13 as he's going past on the inside line. That car didn't look like it was slowing down like it should have been doing.
Yeah, interesting.
But then there was a whole pack of cars behind him, so maybe he kind of got tangled up with somebody else as well, even before they came into camera shot there. But I think he's. I think Michael is out of the car at least, isn't he? Yeah, somewhat gingerly.
Somewhat gingerly. It was a big hit, a very big hit. And good to see him out of the car, talking to the AMR medical staff, the safety team there, and they're going to put him in the medical vehicle and take him into the infield medical center and check him out, while Ophir Levy tries to limp back in his number 13 Lamborghini to the pit lane.
Not much point, to be honest. There's a lot of damage to that car. All he's going to do is make the damage even worse. So park it off here, get out of the car, let somebody tow that back for you.
So the start is under review, and I believe Ophir Levy is going to pull this off. This might be at the heel of the boot, and there's a cut there. So here's the start. Everything up front, at least in the first 5 or 6 rows, look really good. But on the long shot, as you look down, you can see people jumping in the back. Down into turn 1, just really good racing down here. Everybody doing a good job making sure they get through that first corner. But it was in the back that I think the officials are going to have that review. So also understand the 48 is stopped on course.
48 car was the car that crashed,
Stopped,
But that's one of the problems with having so many cars here. There's an awful lot to review for race control. It's a nice problem to have with the 36 cars starting this race. It's been just incredible how the Lamborghini Super Trofeo has grown in recent seasons. It's now a real destination for young drivers to come into. There's a lot of older drivers here, or people just kind of starting out just here to have some fun, but there's also some serious young professionals who are trying to make a career out of this sport, and that is what has really grown by leaps and bounds in the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Oh, absolutely. As you say, it's a place where young drivers come to make their mark. You look no further than the front row, and Ernie Francis and Nico Jamin side by side, 2 young guns trying to make their mark and show the rest of the IMSA paddock, the race car drivers that they are, and that perhaps they are the future for some of these teams that are down there. So yeah, it's become a destination. Now the crew going to work down there in the laces of the boot, that impact that Staub had has pulled the banding off of the tire walls. Crews will have to get the tires back in place, the banding back on it, and that's probably going to take a couple of laps, as they also need to get the 48 up onto the flatbed. Ophir Levy now has indeed pulled that stricken Lamborghini off there at what we call the heel of the boot, turn 8. And I know that the safety workers will get with Ophir as well and try to get him back to the medical. Anytime you make contact on the racetrack, they will take you to medical to do the mandatory checkup and make sure that you're okay. And it's always good to see the safety teams arrive so quickly and work so professionally to take care of the competitors.
Well, it really is, and the AMR safety team and the IMSA crews here are just so impressive, so professional. It's a blessing to have all of those guys and girls involved to the extent they are, because they make sure that if there's a bad situation out there, they make it as good as it can possibly be.
Lamborghini Super Trofeo, a 50-minute race, and there is a mandatory pit stop, and the pit window opens with 30 minutes to go in the race and closes with 20 minutes to go in the race, so you can just divide it in half and then take 5 minutes on either side of it to see where that window is. You need to get in there and get your pit stop done. There are both 2 driver teams and 1 driver teams in the 4 different classes, and the 2 driver teams have to spend 120 seconds on pit lane. The 1 driver format is 123 seconds. The extra 3 seconds is because of the knowledge that the single driver has of his car and the racing conditions that exist on the racetrack. So you have a little bit of a penalty there if you're a 1 driver format, but it's not one that you can't necessarily overcome. But expect that pit window, like I said, 20 minutes into the race, and it'll close 30 minutes into the race.
Yeah, for the driver who's already done the first half of the race, well, not really. You're not going to learn much if he's under yellow the whole time. But yeah, assuming he's had some green flag laps, he will know exactly the balance of the car, how it feels compared to the last time he drove the car, which would have been in qualifying, well, actually yesterday's race, or qualifying prior to that. So he has that knowledge. When he goes back out of the pit lane, having made his mandatory stop to that minimum time, and that minimum time is taken from the entrance to the pit lane to the exit. It's not how long you have to be actually stopped for in your pit box. It's as you roll down into the pit lane to when you roll out again. And there's a readout on the dashboard of each of these cars that will tell the driver, it'll count them down effectively to that pit exit line. And if they get to that pit exit line too soon, i.e. their pit stop is too short, there will be a penalty. If that time differential is less than 1 second, then the penalty will be 3 times whatever that differential will be. So if the pit stop is 0.2 of a second shy of what it should be, the penalty will be 0.6 of a second. If it's more than 1 second, however, then it'll be a drive-through penalty. So there's a bit of a leeway for the teams and drivers there, but if you overstep that mark, it's a draconian penalty, and that'll cost you an awful lot of ground. And that's what we saw yesterday. There were a whole bunch of penalties, both within a second and outside a second as well, and that was costly for several drivers.
Costly indeed. Lamborghini Super Trofeo from Watkins Glen under full course caution because of the first lap incident with Ophir Levy and Michael Staub at the laces of the boot. Those cars have been removed, but work continues on the tire wall in that area of the racetrack so we can get it sorted and safe and get back to racing here in round number 6 of the 2024 season. Looks like crew has gotten the wall back together, so Jeremy, it won't be long before we go back racing here at Watkins Glen.
Splendid. Yeah, lights indeed are out on the safety cars that heads into the bus stop chicane there. So at the end of this lap, the end of the 5th lap, we should be back to green flag racing. We've already had, 13 minutes elapsed. So there'll be another, it'll be another 5 or 6 minutes before the pit stop window opens. And you say it's between 20 minutes and 30 minutes into the 50-minute race. So we have the first 20 minutes of the race is 1 driver. The final 20 minutes is the second driver, if they're changing drivers. In the middle there, you've got 20 minutes to shuffle around and pick that strategy how you like. For the Pro-Am class in particular, there's a Pro and there's an Am, quite a bit of speed differential between those 2 drivers. So the trick will be, if it's the Pro who starts, then it'll be the Pro that stays in that car until the last possible moment before that 20 minutes window to the end elapses. He will stay in the car as long as he can. If it's the Am who started the race, the trick will be to get the Pro in as quickly as possible. So different strategies, different teams decide different ways to do it. As we saw yesterday, a whole bunch of different strategies, and that's one of the interesting parts of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
The fans are out, and so are the puppies. Always good to see such a huge crowd here at Watkins Glen as the lights out on the Lamborghini Huracan safety car, and Ernie Francis will lead the field back to green coming up out of the boot. Safety car will begin to pull away, and Ernie Francis's job is to maintain the pace of that safety car until the restart zone. Everybody else's job is to stay in single file order. We saw that problem yesterday at the finish and the penalties that were applied because of it. Tell you what, Ernie Francis left out in that first half a lap, Jeremy, to a sizable lead over Nico Jamin. We'll see if he can do it again in the restart zone now. He can go at any time, and he does. Pulls the trigger on the 88. And that TR3 Racing Lamborghini is on it.
Good restart there by Ernie Francis. Nico Jamin did his best to stay with him, but a really good start by Ernie Francis. He maintains that lead for TR3 Racing, and pretty much status quo there at the front of the field.
See the bright red number 1, third car in the order. That's Ryan Norman. He and Ernie Francis had such a good run yesterday, but I think weather conditions a little bit cooler today, and so the balance of these cars right now may not be what it was yesterday, Jeremy.
Yeah, true that. It's pretty toasty out there, certainly, but at least the sun isn't baking down onto the racetrack, so the track temperature isn't as high as it has been a little bit earlier in the weekend. Plus, we're getting towards the end of the day, but I don't think it's cooled down much, has it?
Down into the laces of the boot. This is where the problem happened on the first lap. Scott Huffaker aboard the red, black, and white number 22 through the laces of the boot. That's where his day ended yesterday. And it's kind of deja vu all over again because it's Patrick Liddy that's behind him. And Liddy was the instigator of that incident yesterday that removed Jake Walker and Scott Huffaker from the competition. Hankook tires coming up to temperature and pressure. Green 54 is Jeroen Bleekemolen, leader in the Pro-Am category. He'll hand that over to Tim Pappas during the pit stop, and that's one of the cars, Jeremy, that you would expect to see staying out a little bit longer in the pit window to try to see what kind of ground Jeroen Bleekemolen can gain for that team before handing over to Pappas.
That's exactly right. And Fly Lizard Motorsports holds first and second in the Pro-Am Drivers' Championship coming into this weekend and today's race. The sister car, the number 14 of Slade Stewart and Andy Lee, that initially had the victory yesterday but ended up in 4th position with the penalty for the short pit stop. They have chosen the opposite way to go. So Slade Stewart has started that number 14 car. He's some way down the pack, but Andy Lee will finish. And yesterday it was the other way around. If you have two drivers, one driver starts one race and the other driver starts the other race. So this way around, it's Jeroen Bleekemolen. He's in that 4th position right now and holding on ahead of Scott Huffaker and Patrick Liddy, who are both in the Pro class. Second of the Pro-Am category cars is Nick Persing in car number 8 in 7th place.
So Jeroen Bleekemolen leading right now in the Pro-Am category. And you talk about the level of drivers in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Tim Pappas and Jeroen have driven together for years, but Bleekemolen, so much experience, 2-time Porsche Super Cup champion, Le Mans 24-hour LMP2 winner, Sebring winner, Petit Le Mans winner. He's done it all, and again, it shows the caliber of driver that is attracted to this series and that runs in it right now. Bleekemolen leading in the Pro-Am category. Then looking for the number 12 car in the order, that would be Anthony Bullock leading in Am, and Nick Grote, new championship leader in LB Cup, leading today in round number 6 here from Watkins Glen in the LB Cup category.
Yeah, and up in the 20th position for Nick Grote. Another good run for him and his teammate, as you say, Anthony Bullock. He's lost a couple of positions from the start, but still leading in the AM class in 12th position overall. Not far ahead of Ashton Harrison, Kevin Madsen right behind him, and Dominic Starkweather, the new championship leader, there in 4th place in the AM category altogether, those top 4 cars.
Did have movement in the championships in both AM and LB Cup yesterday because of the performance of drivers. There's the 14, the bright pink number 14, trying to move up from that grid position penalty. Slade Stewart behind the wheel right now. We talked about that finish and the officials not smiling on that. So we had those 3 cars with the grid position penalties for today's race for failure to maintain the safety car speed and single file in race number 1. Slade Stewart trying to work his way towards the front before he hands it over to Andy Lee. Oh, that was close.
Yeah, tremendous racing here. There's that kind of, well, the pink car, that's Andy Lee. Can't miss that one. Just ahead of him is Nick Grote, who is leading the LB Cup category in 20th position overall. Mark Brummond is behind the pair of them. And just ahead of Nick Grote, I think, is the AM class car of Rob Walker. So it's got 3 different classes of car here, and all battling for the same piece of racetrack.
And again, when you look at these cars coming at you, it's in the upper right portion of the windscreen. So the passenger side, you'll see that triangle, the blue of the number 77 there, denoting to you that it's an LB, or that's the 99, I should say, denoting that it's an LB Cup entry. And then the other colors on the following cars, green is AM, yellow is Pro-Am, and then that orange color for the Pro category. They have a similar sticker on the rear bumper. It's more of a rectangular sticker that has the same colors. The pit window is open. We've got some takers, Jeremy.
Yes, we have, including several of the leaders. The top 4 cars onto pit lane. So Scott Huffaker will take over the lead of this race. So surprised to see Jerome Blekemolen in so soon in car number 54. He's leading the Pro-Am class. And his co-driver is Tim Pappas, who's pretty good, but I'm not sure, he certainly isn't as quick as Jerome Blekemolen.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well. As see Kiko Porto, I should say, not Porter, taking over the number 4, and then the 88 going through their pit stop as well. Ernie Francis handing over to Gianno Torino. And you look through the winners, now 3 different winners in the 5 rounds in the Pro category. Kiko Porto, Nico Jamin still lead that championship after their run yesterday, but with Danny Vermael and Ryan Norman winning yesterday, they've closed up to within 12 points, I should say, of the championship leaders. Only 5 points behind Ernie Francis and Gianno Torino for second in Pro. Understand right now there is some precipitation around the racetrack. We had rain all around us yesterday, Jeremy. It stayed away. Are we going to get some of it today?
What?
Exactly.
Rain, go away, please, because this is a fascinating motor race right now. And you know, if the rain does come down, these cars are all on slick tires. So slick tires is no tread pattern whatsoever. You might think that's kind of weird to have no tread pattern, but of course, the more rubber you get on the road, what is it that provides the grip? It's the rubber on the road. So the more rubber on the road you have, the more grip you're going to have. That's why we have slick tires, which are great in dry conditions. In the wet, not only not so much, they're impossible to drive in the wet. So there's the number 88 car that's already made its pit stop, and it's now Gianno Torino who drives that car that led the early stages in the hands of Ernie Francis Jr.
Get the pit stop sorted out. Once the window closes and everybody has cycled through, we'll have a much better understanding of the order. About 6 minutes left in that pit window as the teams running different strategies. And a lot of times if you're in traffic, you're better off to pit early in the window. And I don't really think Blekemolen had much traffic around him. So again, that one was one where I expected it to see him behind the wheel of the 54 just a little bit longer. But things settling down, and that little bit of precipitation, the good thing is I think it's just a couple of sprinkles basically, and with the weather the way it is, as warm as it is, it'll hit that hot racing surface and evaporate very, very quickly, almost instantly. So I don't think we have to worry about that. It's just a matter of whether there are any more showers in the area. The 22 now doing their pit stop. That's Scott Huffaker. And for Scott, any of the single driver entries sitting there in that car, it's got to feel like an eternity. It's 123 seconds from pit in to pit out, and there's a timer that goes on, and you know exactly how long it's going to take you to get to pit out, and so you can watch that timer and make sure that you do it. But when you're sitting there and there's nothing going on, no tire changes, no fuel going in, crews will adjust air pressure, check the torque of the single lug that's holding the wheel on. But other than that, there's not much going on. And on a warm day like this, it feels like it's probably 5 minutes that you're sitting there.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It feels like a lifetime for some of these guys. But staying out there on the track is Nick Persing in car number 8 there. That is the Pro-Am leader. He'll be sharing that car with Nate Stacey. Had some problems yesterday, but they've been fast. They've won the Pro-Am class on, well, 4 occasions for Nick Persing, 5 for Nate Stacey with different co-drivers over the last couple or 3 years. So they've been a contender off on a regular basis and running out front of this race now, yet to make their pit stop. And right behind him is Joel Miller, also running in the Pro-Am class at number 66. He'll be sharing with the Olympic snowboarder AJ Muss.
And for Persing and Stacey, they've won twice on the season. They won the first round at Sebring in the class, and they also won in the second race at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. So a very talented group there. And really, when you look throughout the 4 different classes, especially in the Pro and the Pro-Am category, it's like I said, some world-class race car drivers there. And then in AM and LB Cup, drivers that with less experience that are trying to get that level, but the competition is intense across all 4 classes. As the 57 entry sitting there waiting to go, that's Nick Grote. And as I said, we had changes in championships yesterday. Nick Grote took over the championship lead in the LB Cup category with his win here yesterday, on pole in his class today. So Nick Grote has a love affair with Watkins Glen. At least he does right now, because things really going his way this weekend here at the Glen.
Yeah, so Joel Miller takes over the lead of this race as Nick Persing pits with the window just about still open. Yeah, just about enough time for him to complete one more lap. And number 88 car is the first of those cars that has already made his pit stop. He's a lap down to the overall leader at the moment, but when the overall leader Joel Miller comes into the pits in car number 66 for the 47 motorsport team, then the number 88 car, John Otorino, will take over the lead. He had a lead as he came across the line last time, about 4 seconds, a little bit over 4 seconds, over the number 1 car of Danny Formal, 2-time and defending series champion.
You got an idea there of the lead that Gianno Torino has aboard the 88. The car just in front of the bright red number 1 is not for position. We talked about that a moment ago. That's Joel Miller. But it's one of those deals where Formal trying to get by, he wants to go hunt down the 88 of Gianno Torino. That's the battle that's going to be for the overall lead once all the pit stops are done. It's certainly the battle for the lead in row. So Danny Formal knows how to get the job done. And I think I was reading yesterday, Jeremy, tell me if I'm correct, that for Danny Formal, he now has record wins in Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
So say that again. Yeah, 18 wins, yeah, for Danny Formal, making 19 now. He breaks the tie that he had previously with Carl Marcelli, just 2 behind the all-time record of Richard Antonucci. So Danny Formal, he's been an absolute megastar in these cars over the last several years. 2 consecutive championships alongside Carl Marcelli, and driving this year with Ryan Norman. His first win yesterday.
Big problem. It's the 77. We saw problems yesterday for that
that's
car.
The Pro-Am leader.
Yeah. And is that the 54?
I think so.
And trying to see where that is. It looks like the exit of the bus. No, it's the exit of turn 1. On our camera shot, it was pretty tight, and it was trying to figure out by the scenery where it was. Let's take a look and see if we can see what happened. That was
it looked like The 54 car, I think, just lifted off when he saw the crash car, and he got rear-ended, I think, because the 77 car, he's already having his accident.
Yep.
And he stopped, unfortunately, in the middle of the road. And then the yellow flags are out. Number 54 car lifts off, and the car behind him does not. And who was that?
Contact?
Was that Kiko Porto? I think it was Kiko Porto in car number 4.
Yeah, so Tim Pappas aboard the 54. I couldn't tell if there was contact from the rear when he slowed down or just lifting off caused it.
I think there was contact.
And
Brian,
I will tell you that the 77 looked somewhat odd, although the car looked square here. Here's a look again. No.
Oh, you're right. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Yeah, he just lost it. Sorry, Kiko.
That's the third incident. Now, this is the one that's kind of odd. Gets up there. No, I guess not as odd as I thought. Yeah. It's the same thing. You get up there, and I wonder if there's a little moisture on the paint on the curb at the exit of turn 1. We heard about light rain falling and a little sprinkle here or there. Any of the painted surfaces will be super slick. We've seen issues there before this weekend with several other cars, and I wonder if that's what got both the 77 and the 54.
Yeah, it could be. I think that was number 77 car. It showed us as Jake Walker, but oh yeah, okay, it was Keon Tander that started the race. Okay, fine. So Jake Walker had just taken over on that car, but he'd done, that was his third lap, so he was fully up to speed, but he completely got that car sideways and eventually lost it. As I remember Richard Petty saying many years ago, he kind of got a bit behind on his steering. The car was going one way, then the other. He was correcting it, overcorrecting it, and finally he lost it. And unfortunately, some contact there. It looks like he might have got away with it, which is fairly amazing.
Left front's down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Is it?
Yeah, the left front is down, and I'm not sure that the steering is square, but the left front is definitely down.
Okay. But really unfortunate for Tim Pappas in car number 54. And my apologies to Kiko Porto. There was no contact clearly between those two cars. And Porto running in the, what'll be I think the 4th position.
And that may be the culprit right there, Jeremy. Just a couple of little wispy clouds and just a slight bit of moisture on that painted curb, and that may be the problem for both the 77 and the 54. I mean, nobody looked like they were out of control when they came through the corner. They just got up on that curbing, and all of a sudden the car let loose. For Tim Pappas, I think it was just maybe a slight breathe off the throttle to respect the yellow flag and the car that was in the racetrack in front of him, and the car just came around.
I think you're absolutely right, Brian. So just look at the pit stop times. The number 77 car actually has shown us 1 minute 59 on its pit stop, as is actually AJ Muss, who's come out of the pits in having taken over from Joel Miller. It's 2 minutes is supposed to be the minimum time, so I think there might be a little bit of hopefully just a small penalty. If it's less than 1 second, it's a relatively small penalty for those guys. Here's number 77 car onto the pit lane.
See the crew member going to work there, the deflated Hankook removed, and there's a shot across the valley here. Such a beautiful area, the Finger Lakes area of New York State, absolutely beautiful. Think about racing that started in the nearby village of Watkins Glen and then moved to the permanent facility, and it's been through several changes over the years, but the decades of racing here, the magic has never been lost, and it's always been a favorite of both drivers and spectators. Track fell into some disrepair a few years ago. There were music concerts here, there's been racing here, and there has been so much history that has taken place on these hallowed grounds, this racetrack. And today it's round 6 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Championship. under full course caution again, and frustrating for the drivers that you can't get that long run in and kind of get your rhythm going, the starts and stops. And for these drivers who've just gotten in after the pit stop, it's not so bad, but you just want it to go because the racing can be so good at times. And I think Mother Nature kind of threw us a little curveball there down in turn one, and it has brought out this latest full course caution.
Yeah, and unfortunate, we couldn't see it on the screen, but I think you're absolutely right. You know, it's the cars are on the limit. It's a very fast corner, and any light precipitation on those curbs, the curbs are painted, of course, and that extra sheen on the curb, so it's very easy to lose control of the car as it steps across them. And these cars are doing, I think, around about 85, 90 miles an hour through that corner, so it's fast, it's downhill, all the momentum is behind you, and then when you kind of lift off like Tim Pappas did, and if the curb is slightly slippery, that's going to make it doubly tricky to maintain control of the car, which he unfortunately was unable to do.
Brian Till and Jeremy Shaw with you from Watkins Glen International. Safety car out in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America action as safety crews take care of the stricken number 77 of Jake Walker and the 54 of Tim Pappas after two separate incidents in turn one. They'll get that sorted. We'll get back to racing. And for Gianno Torino, he and his teammate Ernie Francis Jr., that number 88 from TR3 Racing has been hooked up all weekend long. The guy that wants a shot at him, though, is Danny Formal, right behind in the number 1 that he shares with Ryan Norman from Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti. What this full course caution has done, Jeremy, is bring Danny Formal to the rear wing of the 88 of Gianno Torino. And for him, he doesn't mind seeing this caution. It's going to give him a shot, and he's going to have 10 minutes or so to try to take advantage.
Exactly right. He had about 4 seconds in hand over Formal did Gianno Torino before this caution came out. And for Torino and Ernie Francis, that TR3 racing team, they were here testing a little while ago, tried all sorts of different things on these cars. Ernie Francis Jr. has driven a lot of different cars in his career. I mean, it's amazing to think he's still only 26 years of age, because he started off racing at age 50 back in 2013, so 11 years ago, but he was only 15 at the time, for goodness sake. And a remarkable string of success in the Trans Am. He was a superstar. You might remember in Tony Stewart's SRX Racing short track nighttime series a couple of years ago. Whatever he's done well, and he learned so much during that test. Came here with immense confidence, put that car on the pole position for the first time, and led. Unfortunately, he only had 3 laps before he had to come into the pits and hand it over to Gianno Torino, but he did a fabulous job during those 3 laps. And Gianno, who is also a very, very talented young man, he's just 20 years of age, originally from Johannesburg in South Africa, but makes his home now in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And again, a real talent, super serious about his racing, really takes it to the nth degree. He works at all aspects of it. He's a fine young man in and out of the car. But he's going to have his handful here with Danny Formal when we get ready to go back to green flag. And then behind them, I think AJ must say, even with that pit stop, that timing of that caution was perfect for number 66 car. But I think he's able to maintain that 3rd position on the racetrack. So because everybody had to slow down when the caution period came out, he was already in the pits serving, exercising his mandatory pit stop, having taken over from Joel Miller. He was again able to get back out onto the track when everybody else was running relatively slowly. So that's a big gain for number 66 car. He's going to have Nate Stacey behind him. That will be the battle for the Pro-Am class, 3rd and 4th overall, with 66 ahead of number 8. Then 2 more Pro cars, Kiko Porto and Patrick Liddy. Then Cheyenne Chandrasoma in car number 21, another Pro-Am car. A little bit further back, it's still Anthony Bullock, who still leads in the Am class and in 10th position overall in car number 10. Just behind him is Andy Lee who's taken over from Slade Stewart in the Pro-Am car number 14, and Andy Lee has been super fast this weekend. Watch for him in that pink unicorn number 14 at the restart. A little bit farther down the order is Anthony Bullock's teammate Nick Grote still leads in LB Cup in 23rd position. That's car number 57.
Lights out on the Lamborghini Huracan safety car. We're going to go back racing at Watkins Glen with just over 9 minutes to go. But I just got a text on my phone, Jeremy. Watkins Glen, stage 1 weather advisory, severe weather 30 miles out. So hopefully it's not moving too quickly. It's one of the great things that IMSA does to help keep their competitors and fans safe, is send those messages. The message that Gianno Torino wants to send right now is, hey, we can win this thing. So he is on it in the restart zone through the final corner, down the front straightaway, but Danny Fromall right behind him is not about to let him get away.
Gianno Torino is in a hurry to finish this race. The sun comes out right now. That's ironic, isn't it? Then looked at the inside, and that was tight there for Kiko Porto. I think he managed to sneak past Nate Stacey for position, not for class position, however. As Kiko Porto still leads the championship coming into this weekend, into this race, but just 8 points ahead of Ernie Francis and Gianno Torino, with Ryan Norman and Danny Fromall just 4 points farther back.
Problem for the 9, no harm, no foul, back underway. Racing continues at the Glen, and Gianno Torino has leapt away. Here's, see if we can see what happens to the 9. There it is. Just try. I want to be as small as I can be, you know, with all the rest of the field coming by. So good job there, and good job by Torino. Look at it again. Ernie Francis did this on the opening lap. I mean, that car seems to be hooked up so well from the get-go, and a problem now for the 42.
That's Adrian Kunzel running third in the AM class. He was in the 13th position overall. Good run for Adrian. He'd taken over that car from his new co-driver for this weekend, which is
some hard-nosed racing going on right now, Jeremy. I mean, guys pushing and shoving. You see the 98 trying to work his way by. Good runs there, and battling all around this racetrack. That's Sam Shee aboard the 98. And a good battle, I think it was the 28 that he was working with, and now a little touch and run there, and a problem for the 99. One of the things that the race officials said on the way in, and a problem for the 25. They said, guys, there's way too much shenanigans going on the racetrack. Too much blocking, too much contact. And now we see the aggression come out here. Lagartixa, a problem there, trying to get his 25 refired.
Where do you look?
Well,
but that was a great restart though by Gianno Torino. I mean, Danny Fromall is an absolute superstar, rock star at the wheel of these cars. So to pull away from him on your first lap going back to green, that says a lot for what Gianno Torino has worked at over these last few weeks. It's been, you know, a couple of months since the Lamborghini Super Trofeo was in action at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca out on the west coast, but he's put that time to good use. He's been working super hard. He's just trying to improve his skills in and out of the car, and as a yellow comes out now with only 6 minutes remaining, has he done enough to come away with the win?
Well, it's interesting, if it's only for the stalled car in turn 8, should be able to jump out and grab him and pull him off there at where we saw Afir Levy pulled his stricken Lamborghini. So we'll see if they can get it out of the way and we can get back racing again. But Todd Snyder, the race director here, is not going to be at all pleased with the performance that he's seen out of his drivers, and he's going to come down hard on them, I'm pretty sure, after this weekend for some of the behavior that we're seeing on the racetrack right now. One thing race control does not have, they have all kinds of cameras that they can use to try to figure out the problems. The one thing they do not have is steering wheel and pedals. They cannot do the job for these guys. They need to do it themselves, and right now he's not going to be pleased with what he sees.
No, he's not. He's been around this sport a long time. He's seen it from absolutely every single aspect, as a mechanic, as a driver, and lately as a race school principal as well, and now from race control. So he doesn't take any messing around, does he?
No, and as a former race car driver and a very good race car driver, he knows exactly what goes on the racetrack. He knows what you can do, what you can't do. So he understands it from the inside and out. And yeah, I'm sure I want to be at the next driver's briefing.
Yeah. Yeah, from your perspective, that'd be okay. For the drivers, I think perhaps not quite so much. Just got a text, by the way, from Andres van der Dies at TR3 Racing. He sent me a text from Ernie Francis following up on yesterday's race. He said, we didn't have the top end pace we wanted yesterday, and it was difficult to make any passes, but he felt really good coming into this race, particularly with that track position, having won the pole position. He said today's going to be a different story. It has been so far, and Gianna Torino now is perfectly positioned to come away with that team's potentially second win of the season for TR3 Racing. And it won't be enough to quite take the championship lead, but it'll move them closer to what they are aspiring to, and that is this Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship.
The 25 going on the flatbed must have had enough damage to it that it would not roll, so they couldn't just roll it to the outside of that corner. I'm sure that's where the flatbed's going to take it, but time counting down, and there's your Pro-Am leader, the number 66. AJ Muss behind the wheel. This would be a huge day for this team. Joel Miller, AJ Muss, if they could come away with this victory.
Well, I really would. I mean, they've worked super hard. AJ has had one AM victory in the past. Joel, surprisingly, hasn't had a win yet in any of the categories. He's driven in pros and pro-ams over the last several years. But this has been a really good performance by AJ. Came out in third position, but maintained that position ahead of the driver for a couple of laps there, than the pro championship leader, Kiko Porto. So he's done a really good job for himself as AJ Muss, and he's looking potentially at what would be a fine first and well-deserved first Pro-Am win if you can stay where he is.
Anthony Bullock leading in the AM category and be his first win in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Started on the pole for today's race. And, you know, this is going to jumble up points in the championship, too, because we've got first-time winners. We've got people further up in the championship having bad days and losing points. So it's going to be interesting after this weekend to add up the points and see where we stand in the championship as we head next to COTA. And it's always a wild one down south when you head to COTA. There's room to roam there, so to speak, and we always say that that's a racetrack that doesn't have a lot of consequences because there is so much runoff there, unlike Watkins Glen. But again, the drivers are going to have to do their part and step up when we head down south.
Yeah, they are, and with less than just over a minute and a half remaining in this race, I think this will be the checkered flag, I think, next time around. Was the white flag shown?
White flag is shown.
It was shown, was it? Okay, fine. So this will be the final lap then. So there is Nick Grote's car. It's been an excellent performance by Nick. Tremendous weekend. A double win he's looking at in the LB Cup category. Relatively new to racing. But he's quite a character. He's done all sorts of different things. He started an online nightlife hosting and limo service when he was at school in New York. That was a few years ago, I must admit. But he's still, look, he's only 35, but still brand new to racing. He moved to Las Vegas a few years ago. He's got this Safe Life defense that we see on the side of the car. It's basically designed and manufactured body armor, which unfortunately you need quite a lot these days, and not just in even in civilian life, which is rather sad to see. That's a different story altogether, but it's been an excellent performance and a great weekend for One Motorsports all the way around, because not only Nick Grote sweeping the LB Cup, but Tony Bullock also looking at his first AM category win.
Well, Jeremy, short pit stop on the number 66.
Ah!
Oh, 1.296 second post-race penalty. We're in the same position yesterday and said you never want a time penalty at the end of a race, but you certainly never want it when you're under full course caution, because everybody's close to you and the amount of positions you're going to lose is going to be massive. Now, I'll tell you this, nobody's playing games like they were yesterday, but if the gap stays like this and the car that's behind the 66, that's the number 4 of Kiko Porto, and for Porto, he doesn't need to be up on the rear wing. It doesn't really matter, but got to think about where the 66 is going to fall, because if I'm AJ Muss right now, I'm going to get as close to the car in front of me as I possibly can. And what is the 88 doing out there? And I'm going to get up on that car, and there's a huge gap behind him now as they come to the line. And that may be enough to have him maintain, and he is. He's right up on the back of the one, and they come across the line. We'll see as the penalty gets applied. It didn't move him. Timing and scoring has that factored in, and it moves them when they come across the line. And with Kiko Porto laying back like he was and in no rush to be up on the rear wing, of course the car in front of him is not in his class, it didn't move him in the final results on my timing.
No, I mean, there was a car in between them, and there's generally around about a half a second being sensible between the cars as they cross the stripe at that sort of a speed, at safety car speed. So, 1.2 seconds with a car in between, that's two cars there. Yeah, that's about right. And I think, I mean, I hate to see people playing games like that, to be perfectly honest. That's what we saw yesterday, and it caused all sorts of confusion later in the evening and even through into today, with the results changing as a result of it yesterday. Clearly the chief steward's words weren't taken on board here by everybody in this field, which is sad to see, because you need to respect race control. So we'll have to see, wait and see what happens. But irrespective of that, it's been a really good performance by AJ Muss and Joel Miller. And if they end up first or second in the class, it's still been a very good day for them.
Well, and you are going to have to wait and see, because at the bottom of the timing and scoring screen is the message: finish is under review. So for right now, the 88, Gianno Torino, and I don't believe that this is in question at all, Gianno Torino, Ernie Francis, they're going to claim their second victory of the season in the pro category. It looks like the 66, that was the winner on track. AJ Muss, Joel Miller. We'll see if there's any kind of a change there at some point in time. Then you move back to AM category, where Bullock takes the victory there. We talked about that being a special day, and Nick Grote being shown the winner in LB Cup, and that will help him extend his championship lead that he wrestled away yesterday. So those are your winners in the 4 classes as they stand right now.
Yeah, that's right. Nick Grote came in with a 1-point lead, but it was over Michael Starr, who was caught out in that first leg accident. So second win of the season overall then for Ernie Francis Jr. and Gianno Torino. Very, very well deserved. By my reckoning, that'll take them to within 2 points of the championship lead now, behind Nico Jamin and Kiko Porto.
Yeah, good stuff. As you look through the second 10 there's Bullock. And we saw problems for several of the competitors there. Nick Grote, we talked about his win in LB Cup, so a good day for him. And when you got 38 cars, you've got a lot of pages of results. And the one that is just heartbreaking for me, you look there at the 54 of Pappas and Bleekemolen, and after having the good run, it looks like Mother Nature gave them a nasty surprise at turn 1, as Tim Pappas doing the right thing and slowing down for a yellow flag, but moisture on the curb, looks like they got the best of him. Competitors back into pit lane. Round 6 is in the books, Jeremy.
Yeah, it is, and it's a shame we finished under yellow again, but once again some really, really good racing there as well. So, this Lamborghini Super Trofeo continues to provide tremendous competition. These are real beasts of cars to drive, and they were tamed today by Ernie Francis Jr. and Gianno Torino, who brings that car into the lane for TR3 Racing.
Into winner circle, and you will get to celebrate the spoils as drivers climbing out. Watkins Glen International Always challenging. It certainly was today for the drivers of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Championship. Round 7 and 8 on the schedule next, and they'll come to you from Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. That's August 31st through September 1st of the year. For Jeremy Shaw, I'm Brian Till. Thanks for joining us here. And Lamborghini Super Trofeo, don't miss it as we head to Texas next.